of a bathroom remodel. And thanks so much for all the new subscribers that have come on. It's absolutely tremendous to see the growth of this channel, and it really gives me a lot of motivation to keep moving forward. So thanks so much. Please leave me a comment. Let me know that I have everything correct here. I believe I have finally figured this out of the timing of when to start all of this. I'm a tradesman. I've been a contractor for 22 years. I haven't really been into this whole matrix computer stuff all that long, and it's been a tremendous learning curve, learning how to edit videos and getting all of this stuff correct. But tonight the form is going to be continuing on this bathroom remodeling course that I've created. So if you haven't been following along, you can check out my live streams on my YouTube channel. I'll show you that in a minute, where you can find the previous live streams. But basically, this was a bathroom I did in real time in July of this last year, and I did it in 7 days with the filming. My wife filmed me, and basically I've been editing all this stuff and putting it into a package, because I think it's important to have a good strategy and really kind of being organized before you get into something like remodeling a bathroom. And I wanted to start it out with something simple. I wanted it to be just a standard bathroom with a tub, toilet, vanity, but I really wanted to highlight how important it is, if you have a home that's 30, 40 years old and you're thinking about doing this, how important it is to really demo this all the way down to the studs and start new. Because it's really important to know whether the plumbing's in good condition, the electrical's in good condition. And really, you'll see, in my course, or if you watch previous videos, of how much easier it actually is to remodel a bathroom if you have everything gutted. So installing the tub, all the processes are so much easier when you have everything opened up. And then you can also really make sure that you have blocking in place, make sure the framing's even. It's just, everything is so much easier when you got everything down to the studs. But basically, I put this together in an efficient way of being able to get it done. So I have it organized day by day on what steps you would want to complete to be able to get this done in 7 days. Now, I don't expect everyone to be able to do that, but at least you would have a strategy to be able to do so. And I really feel that if you were to check out this course and you followed my guidance, that at the end of a week, you would definitely have a functional bathroom, regardless of, I shouldn't say regardless of your skill set, but like, you would be able to have a functional bathroom. It might not have everything painted, or, you might not have the vanity in, but you still have at least a waterproof tub surround, and you would be able to actually still use your bathroom. I know that's a real pain point for a lot of people that only have 1 or 2 bathrooms in their homes, and your family's, dependent on that bathroom. So that's really what this channel is about, is trying to pass on some of the strategies that I've had taken over the last 14 years. So I've been doing bathrooms in Pittsburgh primarily for 14 years, but I've been a contractor for 22. I have a lot of experience with remodeling all these older homes. So there's a lot of there's a lot of methods and different things that I always try to express on how to do things, and that's really what this channel is all about. So I also want to say thanks for all the new subscribers that have come on this channel. Really has given me a lot of motivation, and it's really impressive and great to see the trajectory that the channel is moving up towards. I think I doubled the subscriber count in the last day or two. Now, subscribers don't really mean that, what it does is it allows my channel to have more volume. So the Google will send it out to further people. So if you give this video a like, it really helps out. So please give it a like on the way in here. And then if you subscribe, that even helps me out even better. You'll get notifications of these live streams. But the whole concept of these live streams and me showing you this course on this is for interaction. And I'm hoping to, I really just want the people that are actually wanting to do bathroom remodeling. If you're a new contractor, or if you're just a homeowner that's trying to redo things, that's what this channel is for. And, I think I really do have a lot of videos that I'm going to be bringing out here shortly, primarily walk-in showers. But I wanted to start out with just a basic bathroom. So let's shrink myself down, and I'll show you first off where to go to find the previous videos, because all of like this entire course is going to be online. You can watch this on YouTube. I just think you're going to want to actually get into the course because there's a whole bunch of information within it that's going to help you out. So anyways, tonight's topic is basically day 6. We're getting down to that finish line. We're going to be basically completing a lot of the finished tasks to get everything done. Hey, Winnie, good to see you, man. Thanks for coming here. Misha, it's awesome to see you. So let's check this out. First off, let's go over the bathroom itself. So this is the actual estimate that I provided the client this summer. So as you can see, June 6th of this year. And like I said, it's just a standard bathroom. 5x8, has a tub, toilet, 30-inch vanity. So nothing too overwhelming, but the biggest thing is that we demoed everything all the way down to the studs. And I think this estimate can kind of give you a gauge of what this actually might save you if you actually did it yourself. So, you know, these are Pittsburgh prices, so you have to take that with a grain of salt. If you live in LA, obviously things might be double the price, but this at least gives you a good gauge of what things might cost to have done by a contractor. So, you know, when I do my quotes, I always make sure that it's pretty transparent. I want to make sure that the client, especially these days when, you know, people are stressed out with all the stuff that's going on with the economy, with, you know, COVID and all those things. So, you know, you really have to get things in writing because I think a lot of people kind of, you know, forget about what they were going to have done, or they've just talked to so many contractors that they forgot about what they were even planning to do in the first place. I mean, that's kind of an unusual thing to happen, but if you have it in writing, you'll be in good shape. So, yeah, Phil, that is 5x8. It's not too terrible. I mean, it's a fairly, I would say it's a standard bathroom in a standard, like this is a split entry home that I did it in. So this would be like your hallway bathroom, like the main bathroom of the home. But yeah, no, it's a fairly, it's a fairly reasonable sized bathroom. But I go through, you know, I explain the demo of how I'm going to go about it, make sure I mask things off, plastic and carpet guard on it. But we'll further get into this on another live stream where I really break down the cost of everything so that we can kind of highlight like how much you're really going to save at this. But I always highlight the type of tub I'm going to be installing, you know, make sure that I tell them, hey, I'm going to be doing waterproofing. This is primarily to make sure that people know that what kind of system I'm actually doing so that you're not comparing a contractor is just going to put up hardy backer and towel over it, or, you know, sometimes I even do drywall. So, you know, I think highlighting, you know, that you're actually waterproofing that tub surround is really important. So, and then I go into, you know, the underlayments for the floor, and I kind of itemize the price out at each one. I don't know if that's necessarily a good strategy or not, but to me, it just kind of keeps things fairly straightforward in case the client wanted to change out different options within it. But breaking it down into the separate categories of plumbing and underlayments and then electrical, I always, you know, I don't want to use any old vent fan. It has to be a new one. And one of my favorite ones is the Panasonic vent fan. So, you know, I always include one of these. I always think it's a better idea to have a separate fan from the light, just because of the volume of air. I think that's one of the most important things that you can have done in your bathroom when you're doing a renovation is to have a good vent. You need to have ventilation. Most of the problems that arise in bathrooms are the humidity levels too much and it's just sitting there and then creating mold and everything else. So a good vent fan is really important for any bathroom remodel. I highlight drywall and painting. That's usually kind of a little bit of a high price, but as I'm telling you, as a homeowner, DIYer, you know, as your own tradesman, drywall is not that difficult. I assure you will be able to get it to a point where you'd be happy with it. It just might take a little bit longer than, say, a professional can do it. But, you know, I always make sure that people, you know, try to gut things down to the studs. I think it's really important to be able to check out that electrical, check out that plumbing, and really the existing walls or the plaster that might be in your existing home really is a hindrance to be able to really efficiently get the bathroom done. You'll be fighting yourself with the existing walls, especially if you have wallpaper or something. You don't want to have to mess around with removing that. It just takes, you end up spending more time than it would to just actually mud and finish a couple sheets of drywall. And then basically I like to have like an image of some sort that describes the type of tile work I'm going to be installing. Because if you have ever been to some of these tile stores, they have some really elaborate displays. And I can't tell you how many times people have come home with, you know, marble, and they want it in a herringbone pattern, and they want all these different details into it. So I think it's important right off the bat to just give a good estimate and have some kind of reference of what you were planning on installing, because you can spend a lot more time on installing more intricate tile layouts, and you don't want to be caught, you know, planning to do ceramic and then the next thing you're doing marble. So as I guess this is more for a contractor's advice, is that you really want to kind of highlight what kind of tile design you're going to be doing to a certain extent, so that you know how much work is really going to be involved there. So this is kind of the price right here that you'd be probably looking at. Now this is with tile. So when I have an $800 allowance, a lot of times I do end up leaving all the materials out of the quote. But in this particular instance, the older nice woman I did this bathroom for, she really didn't want to get involved with all of that. So I kind of just gave an allowance, and we chose, you know, some pretty, you'll see in the course that it's fairly simple layout, a very simple tile design. So $800 is actually, was a little bit more than we needed in this actual budget, but that's just for the tub surround. So, you know, you can definitely get some pretty nice stuff under $800 for that. Highlight the floors. A lot of times people just want 12 by 24 inch tile, but you want to make sure you specify what you're planning on installing. You don't want to have them coming home with penny tile, and then you're installing penny tile at the same for the same price as what 12 by 24s are. You're definitely going to take a little bit more time installing that. It's certainly going to take a lot more grout to fill penny tile, and the process of, you know, making sure that the underlayment is nice and flat for that installation. You know, you want to be sure that you address what kind of floor you're going to be putting into it. And then I just highlight, you know, the kind of vanity I'm installing, and just basically the overall price. So this is probably, you know, this is a generous price now. I mean, honestly, today, if you were to ask me to do the same bathroom, I'd probably be up another 10%. And this bathroom did go over a little bit over budget, just because of some of the extra items within the bathroom that we needed to, you know, like the electrical, we weren't 100% sure what was going on there. We ran a new wire all the way down to the panel because it wasn't a 20 amp line, and there was other things that did, you know, add a little bit of cost to it. But I would say roughly a normal 5x8 bathroom, you're looking at between 12 and 15,000, depending on where you live. So, you know, we'll get into this at some point here where we really break it down to find out, you know, what did this bathroom actually cost. But it's usually typically between $4,000 and $5,000 for the actual core materials. And, you know, like I said, it's not really super high end stuff, but it's, you know, it's reasonably priced stuff. So anyways, that's just kind of give you a gauge of what you might save. You know, you could definitely probably save yourself $6,000-$7,000 if you do this yourself, even if you had to buy a lot of materials to do it. So I just wanted to run that down through there, but we're going to do a quick recap of the 6th day, because the last 2 days of a bathroom remodel, it's really about timing. The only way you're going to get out of a project like this is to make sure that you strategize well from the very beginning of the morning, so that, because, you know, paint takes time to dry, caulking takes time to dry, the grouting that you're going to be doing, all these things take some considerable amount of time to dry and get ready. So, you know, you have to be kind of somewhat organized and just stay focused on what you're doing. And you'll even see in a lot of my videos, I'm raw as it is. I want to get better. I mean, I'm trying to improve every day. I get a lot of criticism online about how messy I am, but really I am about just getting things done. I really, I need to be cleaner. I need to be neater, but the ultimate thing is I don't really, when I'm in the moment and I'm actually doing this stuff, I just want to get it as done efficiently as possible. And I want to obviously make sure that everything's installed correctly. But as far as the actual, you know, cleaning or mess that I have, might have on my tools or whatnot, you know, that all takes extra time. And, you know, if you are a precise person on that type of thing, good for you. I do plan on improving, but, you'll see a lot of my videos, I'm just kind of really raw at the way I go about things. So I know I guess I'm just saying that because I get a lot of criticism about the messiness that I have, but I assure you that the installation at the end of the day comes out very well. And you'll see that with some of the products today that you'll be showing you me finishing up. But let's just go through a real quick recap. Let me see who's all in here. Philip, you like Dietra? Yeah, I do like Dietra over cement board. I would not use, there's not too many times that I want to use cement board. There's really no structural value to it. But if I were to do like penny tile or something like that, I probably would do a 1/4 inch cement board and then do a liquid waterproofing over top of it, just so I can have a nice, really flat surface. Penny tile, anything under 2x2s, really needs like a flat surface. Dietra, Schluter really doesn't want you putting on tile less than a 2x2. So you kind of have to stay within those requirements as well. But cement board, I really don't see the point of it anymore, other than for those type of circumstances where you have small tile, or if you need height for some reason. If you're doing a curbless shower and you need a 1/2 inch layer or something, a cement board really might make a lot of sense. But still, the labor is going to be a little bit more intensive on cement board than if you just put down a 1/2 inch layer of plywood. So I really don't touch cement board all that much anymore. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. But hey, we're in a whole bunch of shortages anymore. You might see me doing a bunch of cement board soon. I'm not sure. So yeah, Kevin, as I said in there, is between 12 and 15,000 for a bathroom like that. So let me do a quick recap of the beginning part of day 6. I'm not going to go through the whole process because that would take up quite a bit of time. If you've seen some of my other live streams, you would see kind of the process all leading all the way up to day 5. And actually, let me just double check, show you real quick. If you go to my YouTube channel and go to playlists, you go down to view the bathroom remodeling online course. And right here you'll find all of the other videos associated with this. So you can watch all of this. You can watch this entire course on here, but I think you'll see that once you get into the course, you'll see why you might want to participate in this. You'll be able to obviously get direct access to me, but you'll see a lot of the links and a lot of helpful details within this that are going to help you keep you organized. And I'm not done with it yet. I still have one more day's worth of the 7-day project, so I have a bit of more editing to do, but there's a whole bunch of other things I want to add to this course, which would be like checklists to kind of keep you focused, make sure that you have the things in advance before you get started on the project. For instance, like day 1 demo, you need to have some shark bite caps so you can cap off your plumbing, get the water back on. You need to have a temporary light fixture. If you don't have a window in the bathroom, you're going to need light to finish the project. There's a whole bunch of things that I'm going to put into a list that I think you should reference before you get started. Because if you go to Home Depot or Lowe's every day during a project, you're not going to get it done efficiently. That takes up a lot of time, and it really kind of deflates you. It just takes, it takes the energy out of you, especially if you're getting, if you're older, in your 40s or 50s, your energy level isn't what it used to be, and if you go out to, Lowe's or Home Depot every single day, you're just going to have a really hard time getting things done. So, yeah, thanks, John. It is. The end product is what matters. But again, I always strive to improve. And that's one thing I love about bathroom remodeling is that there is so many newer things that continue to come out, strategies that other people come out. If Winnie's still in the chat here, he has tremendous content. Definitely subscribe to his channel. I'm sure you probably all have. Winnie Designs, he has tremendous ideas and he really demonstrates things really well. I've learned a lot off of him. I'm learning a lot off of everybody on these social media platforms because it's tremendous. In 10 minutes on TikTok, I can look up tiling videos and have a new trick or a new idea that would make it a little bit easier or better to do things. So I think we just live in this amazing era right now where we can learn so quickly, so easily. And that's one of the reasons I want to be a part of this, because I do have experience to pass on, but I really wish I would have had this when I was 20 years old, when I was starting my business. I started when I was 21. That was the year 2000. Internet was barely there. You were relying on, you had to work for somebody, you had to work for somebody for $10 an hour. And that wasn't me from the get-go. So it was hard for me to do that. And really, not to get into too much of how I've started all this, but what really happened is I just started buying some homes and working for investors and remodeling full houses. And I had to hire some people, professionals, to come in and do it. And I learned a lot of the stuff off of them. But these days, you can go online, you can go on YouTube, you can go platforms like this and learn an incredible amount very quickly. So what was I going to do here? So getting into the cores. Yeah, I already went through the, oh no, did I go through the recap? Where did my recap go? Oh, there it is. All right, sorry, I'm getting distracted here. So getting into my recap here. So we're going to start at the beginning of the day. Like I said, day 6, day 7, very important to kind of follow through with a strategy so that you're not stuck waiting for paint to dry or waiting for, you know, some other, especially with grouting and stuff like that. You don't want to be, you know, kind of mismanaging your time, or you're not going to be able to get things done quickly. So let's get into day 6 here. So at the beginning of the day, first thing when I get in there, I'm sanding that drywall. So that's the 3rd coat of drywall that I'm sanding down. And I usually use 5-minute mud at this point because this is day 6. I want to get out of here. I want to get it painted today. So I use the 5-minute mud to be able to allow that to dry really quickly, sand it down, and get it ready for painting. So that's really great for all like small little touch-ups, anything that you might have nicked up when you were setting the floor the day before. And, you know, if you're inexperienced with mud work, maybe get the 15-minute mud or the 20-minute mud. You really don't need to do it in 5 minutes because it really does mean what it says. In 5 minutes, it's hard as a rock and you can't use it anymore. But so, you know, maybe go with the 20-minute mud. That would probably be a little bit better for you if you don't have a lot of experience with, and if you have a lot of areas that you actually have to coat over and you're not ready yet. I would go with a longer, you know, type of mud. But then we move right into cleaning up this floor. So a lot of this is a lot of drywall dust from doing all the sanding. So it's not all thin set, but I did on this particular bathroom, I did take the weekend off. So I was working Monday through Friday, and then this was a Monday that I came in on. So I had a lot, I wanted to get the floor obviously cleaned up. And you want to have the tile dry before you start grouting. That's one thing. If you clean up this tile, you really can't just immediately start grouting because you usually have water in those grout joints. And if you have any water in those grout joints, it's going to immediately ruin the grout. So, and in this instance, I needed to use something that would help soften that thin set up because I was kind of in a rush on Friday afternoon. And I mean, there's a lot of time constraints that I actually had on this project that not everybody's going to have. My wife was filming me, and she had to get back for the kids from the school bus at 3:30. So we basically had from 9 o'clock to 3:30 to film this and do everything. So, you know, a lot of this, I was definitely on a super rush mode. And so I did have a lot of thin set left in between some of these grout joints. So the solution was to use sulfuric acid to soften that up. And when you use that stuff, you definitely have to really saturate the floor. You don't want to be using, you don't want that to be in the grout joints when you're actually grouting, or it could compromise the grout. So you can check out on my earlier videos of specifically how to use that product, but it really is just a matter of putting it in a spray bottle, spraying down the joints, and then you really have to scrub it to make sure that it's removed. So cleaning up, there's that sulfuric acid I was using, but that's why I wanted to do it first thing in the morning. I want this floor to be completely dry before I grout it, which I'm typically doing at the very last thing of the day. And then we get into the epoxy grouting. So mixing this epoxy, this is my favorite type of grout for white thin set or white grout. I'm very sensitive about white grout because I've seen so many, you know, ugly looking bathrooms with yellow grout, and this stuff is bulletproof. I've been using this for quite a few years, and I really have a lot of confidence in it. So, but there's you know, it honestly is a very, very easy grout to use, and I demonstrated that in the last video, so definitely check that out. But there's a lot of tips in here that I give you to make that easier for you. But you shouldn't be afraid of epoxy, and I feel like if you're going to be doing white grout, you should really go towards that because it is some pretty bulletproof stuff, and it's a very fine consistency, and it obviously never needs sealed. It's epoxy. It's going to harden up very, very well. So packing it is, you know, with the epoxy, the hardest part, honestly, is just packing all those joints because of the thick consistency of it. It does take a little bit of time to clean up. So, and especially these little niches, they're just such a mess to try to do. But you'll find that when you watch some of these videos on the epoxy, it actually somewhat is easier than a traditional grout. So make sure you ball some of that up, because that's one bad thing about epoxy is that you don't have a second chance. Once everything hardens up and you're done for the day, there's no more. You can't you can't go back. This stuff hardens up hard as a rock, and that's done. So if you had a touch up you had to do the next day, you're kind of screwed. You have to buy a whole new package of it to do anything with it. But in this instance, like I said, once you pack everything, ball this thing up so that you have some time for the rest of the day to touch things up. Typically, if you ball it up like this, you get a couple hours out of it. But my main reason for doing it is so that when I actually clean all of the tile, I can fill in some areas that I need to fill in. So you really have to pay attention to that. If you're using epoxy, you can't be sloppy. You can't forget about any area at all, or it's going to cost you because you're going to have to buy a whole new package of it to do a small spot. And then, a lot of times when I'm actually setting, so this is how day 6 works. It's like you're constantly moving. You kind of have ADD. You're kind of going all over the place because you're trying to do everything efficiently. So while I'm letting that grout set, usually it takes about 10 to 15 minutes before I can even clean it. So in the interim, I'm already sanding down that 5-minute mud, and I'm already wiping down all the walls. You need to wipe down all your walls, and we'll get into that here shortly in a little bit more detail. But you need to wipe all that dust off before you get into painting or priming. So that's what I was doing in between, and then I'm checking it again. So you do a finger test, make sure everything's in good shape before you start cleaning, and then you test an area with the scrub pad. And then you just basically go over the entire process of cleaning that. But the one great thing about the epoxy, you can use as much water as you want. That's one of the biggest difference between this and any other type of grout, is that the amount of water that you can use to scrub this stuff, and it really does come off very easy from most surfaces. So that is one thing that I feel confident with, is that if you time it correctly when you're going to be removing the grout, it's really not difficult at all. Biggest additional tip here is using a microfiber cloth to wipe down all of the residue water so that you don't have any spotting from that. Now the niches, again, they're just a real pain in the neck to always clean, but clean everything up. And then that's basically the first half of the day. Now grouting a tub surround like that with epoxy definitely is going to take you 2 hours, 2 to 3, about 2 hours, I would say. It usually takes about 25 minutes, 30 minutes maybe to pack all the joints, and then you're waiting another 20 minutes, and then you're scrubbing everything down. So, that's a big part of the day, is doing this epoxy. And like I said, we really went over it in the detail in those beginning live streams. So, yeah, CJ, I agree, man. It's, yeah. No, you're not the only messy one. Yeah, CJ was just saying that, it does take time to clean too, and it does. You're absolutely right, and that's where I'm trying to get this done in 7 days, and okay, I'm not cleaning up that drywall mud. I'm just not doing it. I'm moving on to my next part of my project. So, but that was basically what you'd have done before before lunchtime for the most part. So let's get into my course here. So what this is on bathroomremodeling.teachable.com. And so right now I only have 2 courses available. This one, which I'm not finished, so I have it at a very, very low price. It really is just primarily just to support the platform. So if you're interested in supporting this, buying, I'd love to see you in the course. Love to get feedback from you all. But basically right now I'm just selling it for $25 because I don't have it complete. I'm on day 6 of the 7. So I'll be pretty done here pretty shortly, and I will be increasing that price as time goes on. But, the other course I do have is custom glass enclosure. So I'll get into this on a live stream at one point. I know this is going to be a more select group that would even be considering doing this. Probably the contractors. I feel that if you're a good tile setter, you should have no problem doing glass measuring and installing glass, because it's, in a lot of ways, it's just the same amount of precision. A little bit more tricky with the glass. You don't really get a second chance with it. You can't just grind down the edge and make it fit. Tempered glass, once it's tempered, that's all there is to it. But, glass is really expensive. I mean, when you get a contractor to come out and install glass, a standard, like a corner shower like this is basically a 4x4 shower. That's roughly $3,000. And the materials for this is probably, I think I have to go back to look at it, but it was about $1,300 for the glass, and about another $200 to $300 for the actual hardware. So literally for half the cost of what, having a contractor come in there and do it. You do it. And I do have some suggestions in there as well. I mean, I think you should double the price of what the materials are for sure if you're a contractor, because if you screw up one of these measurements, or if you nick or scratch or whatever to any of these panels, I mean, it's going to be pretty costly to you. But as a DIYer, as a contractor or homeowner doing this themselves, you could pretty much order 2 glass enclosures and be under the cost. So I feel like I have a good strategy in here about going about doing it, and I have some templates within this as well that can help you keep organized and get you the measurements to those glass companies. That's one of the things that it's a little difficult, because there's most glass manufacturers or companies that you try to order the glass from. They're going to make you feel like you can't do it. They're going to make you feel like, well, if you order this wrong, that's all on you. And they might even say, I don't even want to order your glass because I don't want to get into a fight about it not fitting. So you have to be clear about what you're doing when you're giving them to the glass supplier. And I think the templates that I have for you to fill out will make that very clear and make it easier for you to be able to purchase it if you're not a normal contractor dealing with, companies like this. So getting into the course here, this basically is an all-inclusive course. It goes from, the demo process to installing the tub to installing the shower faucet. Now I have specific products that I'm doing in here. I know not all of you are going to choose the ones that I've chosen for this, but a lot of this materials that I have in here, are going to be the same kind of methods that you would be installing. If you install a Moen valve, it's going to be pretty much the same process as this. There might be some different intricacies to it, but hey, if I'm getting a lot of questions about Moen valves, I'm getting a lot of different questions about different waterproofing systems, I'll add them in here. These are just the ones that I found to be some of the most efficient ways of doing, not so much the tub necessarily, but as far as the process of installing the plumbing, this tub surround kit, basically the Go board system, I think it's one of the fastest, easiest systems with the sealant application. It's not very expensive. It's, you can get the waterproof tub surround under $350 all day long for the most part, at least for now anyways. And I think it's a very quick process. And then I go into hanging drywall, tile setting, and then a whole bunch of stuff about the epoxy grouting. But just to let you know, I do all of this type of work by myself. I don't have any helpers. My wife might give me a hand here and there, but she's primarily holding that camera while I'm doing all of this. So, and I've been working for years by myself. Even with the other channel, he's basically just watched me. So I really, the strategies I have in here is basically, you can get a lot of this done yourself. And I find as a contractor too, it's hard to have a helper with small projects like this. A lot of times I feel like they're just kind of watching you the whole time, and you just run down to the truck and get this or that, and that's a pretty expensive gopher for that matter. I don't know, maybe I need to be a better boss. Maybe I need to be a better manager on things. But a lot of this stuff, it's like two people aren't going to be working in the same space. So it's I think a lot of tile contractors, a lot of bathroom remodelers are just them, and that's it. So anyways, into my curriculum here. So I have it broken down by day. I think that's the most efficient way to summarize how to go about this. So day one is obviously demo, but I do the hanging the drywall the same day because I think it's important to get that drywall sealing up, especially if you're working for a client. It makes everyone feel better not looking up into their attic space. Day two is primarily installing that tub, that drain assembly, installing the tub and shower faucet, getting things prepared for that. So day two is a big day, and a lot of times, most of the time, day one and day two are where you're going to find all of your unhidden problems. No contractor is going to be able to tell you exactly what's going on in your home unless they built the house. Especially these older homes. Most of the homes that I'm remodeling are from the 70s and then earlier. So, as far as cohesiveness of how everything was done, I mean, it was just up to whatever Joe Plumber decided to do, basically. I mean, they had rules they had to follow, but it was kind of up to them on how they designed everything. I think today's homes are much better planned out, and there's, the strategies of doing most things are kind of set up in a way, especially with all the engineering plans that we have now. It's just, we've gotten a lot smarter, put it that way. So I think that if you have a home that you're trying to just replace a fiberglass tub surround, and you want to put a new tub in, you're going to have a lot easier time than probably a lot of the stuff I'm demonstrating here. But anyways, day 2 is primarily getting that tub and shower faucet in. Day 3, we're getting into framing and blocking. This is day 3. If you spend the time here, it's going to make the tiling process much easier. It's going to make everything much easier, making sure all those studs are all in a line with another. Getting blocking up for your accessories. As a contractor, there's nothing worse than getting a call back because a towel bar fell off. I mean, that can just take a couple hours out of your day running around just to do that. So if you put blocking behind your accessories, you're going to make sure that they stay in there for a very long time. And then you waterproof the tub surround. So really, by day 3, you technically have a functional bathroom because you got your tub in, you got the waterproofing around the tub. You could technically just put in the cartridge in the faucet and start, your family could use the shower. The tile is just a decorative part of the whole process. So as long as everything's waterproof, you should be good to go. The struggle is finding out what's going wrong. Once you tear everything out, you'll be able to see, maybe uncover some issues that you might see with the plumbing. And that's a very hard thing to gauge, ahead of time. But, it's just, so day 4, we get into actually tiling. We get into, we set the back wall, we set the sidewall. I see, this is actually, in some way, I'm putting this course together selfishly because it's going to help me be more organized. Typically when I bid a job and I win the job, I mean, most of the time it's booked out 2 to 3 months from now, when I'm going to be doing it. But the week before, it just starts running through my mind of all the things I need to be set up with, because time is money. I don't want to be I don't want to be in the client's home any more than I have to be. And I know they don't want me to be necessarily in there. They might be happy to see me there day 1 or day 2, but by day 4, they're like, can we just move on and get this over with? Because it's an inconvenience. It really is. Having a map or a strategy of going about this is going to make you a lot more efficient and just be able to keep you organized and ready to go. So anyways, day 4, we were putting down the waterproofing on the floor. We're going over the tile layout. We're putting up the back and side wall of the tub surround. Now that might not always be able to be accomplished. It really depends on your tile layout. Like I said, if somebody's going to give you marble and they want you to do it on a herringbone pattern, you might only get that back wall done. You might not be able to get to the side wall. A lot of these things can be a lot more complicated and take up more time. So it really depends on this, the kind of project you're getting into. But there's some core things you want to do. You want to get that second coat of mud on. You want to, you kind of want to prep your tile floor, because day 5 you want to set your tile floor. Because everything revolves around that. You need to be able to grout it. That's what we're going to be doing here on day 6, is grouting that floor so that you can get the vanity in, your toilet in, and be finished on day 7. So getting that that first coat of mud on day 2, and then day 3. See, this is why I need a checklist here. So day 3, you put that first coat of mud on. You hang the drywall, get the first coat of mud on. Day 4, you're doing the second coat. You need to allow that to dry so that the next following day you can do the third coat. And then another important part of day 4. Now, if you saw these previous videos, you already know the strategy here. But if you're doing a mosaic, it's really, really important or really helpful, especially with the new mosaics now that are really, really thin. I don't know if anybody's really paid attention, but all these mosaics are getting thinner. Like the glass is like a 1/4 inch thick. And they used to be 3/8 inch thick. They used to be as thick as the tile, but now they're making it thinner and thinner, and they're still charging the same price. So somebody's making money. But you want to set those things on a Schluter membrane, so like a Curdy band. That's going to make it easier to set them in place and get them even with the outside tile. Even if you did get the thicker glass, I think it's a nice feature to be able to put it down on a Curdy membrane, and then have that set up for the next day to be able to set. So these are all things that, kind of speed up the process of the installation. Day 5, We're finishing off the tile with that plumbing wall. Now I had a recessed niche on the plumbing wall, so it's a little bit more of a complicated tile layout. And we set those mosaics, we do the third coat of mud, and then we set that tile floor. Now day 6, we just kind of went over that, but the first thing we get when we get in there, here, let me just go into the goals of the day, because this is one of the things I have on every day. I basically have a goal for the day. So let's just watch this real quick. This just kind of gives you a little bit of guidance. 23 seconds. You'll see most of my videos on here too are very to the point. I don't need to be laboring a lot of stuff that that's just filler. I'm all about just trying to get the information to you quickly. But here's just the kind of the intro to day 6. Okay, so day 6. This day is going to be primarily a lot of cleaning, painting, and grouting your tub surrounds. So we're going to be getting things ready to pretty much get it to the finish line here. And everything is about timing when it comes to grouting. So I'm going to give you a lot of great tips with that, and so that you can have an easy time with that. So we'll get started today, and then hopefully tomorrow we can just wrap things up. So that's basically just the concept of what's going on here. But I always have in my first goals of the day showing what you want to accomplish, keeping your mind straight on what the important things are. So first thing, touch up, get that final coat on that drywall, touch up any of those nicks that you got so that you can sand them down and get them ready. I have links here to get the 5-minute mud just for reference, just so you know what I'm talking about. So you can just click on that and just take a look at what exactly I'm recommending here. And then, scrub that floor, get that clean, especially if you're having to use this sulfuric acid. This stuff, like I said, you don't want this stuff sitting on the tile before grouting. It needs to dry. You need to clean that up with water. So scrub that floor, get that ready, and then grout that tub surround. That's the third thing you do. And what we're going to be going over tonight is basically prime caulk, get the ceiling ready to go, get that shower trimmed together, and then painting. Now all this stuff is, when it comes to painting, I mean, I'm sure all of you probably have painted before, but I do give you a little bit of a couple of tips in here that I think will be helpful. But really, it's about the strategy about how to get it done so that you can actually get things working. This bathroom, I did have a humidity problem because it was in July and it was like 100 degrees the entire time. They had air conditioning, but it was still very, very humid this July. So, I had to get some fans on in here to speed up the drying process. And then last thing you do is get that floor grouted. I really do like to do this at the last part of that day because, it's really easy to mess up your grout by walking on it or getting any type of dirt or debris in it. So doing that last thing is really helpful. And then I always have a whole bunch of basically the materials that I've used in this project so that you can reference some of those materials if you need to. And then again, at the end of each one of these, you can leave a comment. I'd love to see this to be more of like a forum. So, other people posting the pictures of their bathroom and any questions they have, because, there probably is going to be some valuable comments in here that would help others out as well. So so we already did the grouting, the epoxy grouting. We went through that. That was a pretty long amount of videos going over that, but that was a really important thing to really know how to do before you get started. But then we're going to get into the priming and caulking. So this would be basically right after I basically got that epoxy grout. Let me see if I have any comments in here. Marco, that's who I was trying. I was trying to find where I saw that comment from. I'll put this on here. But yeah, it's bathroomremodeling.teachable.com. Pay attention to your browser. That's one thing I've been noticing. Some people have been asking me, hey, when I click and roll, it doesn't go anywhere. I can't get into the course. I think it's because some people's browsers are blocking the pop-up that brings up the course or brings up the payment process to get into this. So make sure your browser isn't blocking pop-ups. I think once you click and roll, it's clicking up a pop-up. But I'll put a let me see if I have I'll put the link. I have the link in the description now, but let me just put the links in the comment here to the course. And again, I mean, I'm only, this is a very low discounted price just because I don't have it complete, and I really just would love to see, at least 100 people get into this. I mean, we're more than 2/3 of that now. But let me see here. Sorry about this. Let me go into YouTube here. Yeah, there. Here, I'll put it in the description here, Marco. So if you have any problems, Marco, you can always email me. And I can put that in here at the bottom here as well. So here, let's go over the caulking and painting. This is another thing I'm going to give you a tip on that, will speed up the process, and that's using this special type of siliconized caulking. So here we go. Okay, so we're really getting into the finishing parts here. So getting into priming and painting and caulking. First thing you want to do though is you want to get a wet sponge and you want to wipe down all of your walls and ceiling. Get all the dust off of it. It's really important to do that because otherwise the dust will collect with the paint and create like a bit of a rough surface. So I use two things. I use a scrubby pad to help wet sand down some of that drywall mud. If you have anything left over, really help. So even on that 5-minute mud, that's where wet sanding actually is the best way to kind of smooth that 5-minute mud out. The 5-minute mud or the 15 or even the 20-minute mud, they consider that hot mud because it just kind of, I don't know what kind of additive it has in it, but it does something where it dries immediately or very quickly, I should say. So wet sanding, it is the easiest way if you use one of those scrubby pads. And you have to be careful. You don't want to be gouging any of the mud, but just even a regular sponge too can help out a lot. But again, it's really important to wipe down all these walls, and I think wet sanding really does kind of fine tune the sanding rather than just using a regular sanding pad. So using a sponge and one of those scrubbies makes a big difference. Alex, good to see you. Architectural Sheet Metal. Hey, if anybody on here needs help with roofing, check out his channel. It's a tremendous. He's done a great job there as well. So yeah, and then just using a regular sponge with water and just wiping everything down. And then the first thing you want to do is cut everything in. It's not a must, but that's what I typically do is just cut in with the drywall primer all the way around the surface of the ceiling and all around the walls of the tub surround. And for new drywall, you only need
So we're just going to use a traditional drywall primer. You don't need anything special for fresh drywall.
So just a standard PVA or Sherwin-Williams actually makes an actual drywall primer. So you don't have to spend expensive primer or anything for going over this.
And I just like to use a 3/8 inch
nap roller for this. And just a matter of eliminating any lines and just covering everything. Now the primer coat is going to possibly uncover some areas that you might have to touch up with your drywall mud. It's always tough to tell until you get some kind of finished coat on here, whether you need to touch up any nicks and dashes anywhere. Okay, then applying the paint with the roller. I'm sure all of you have painted before, but the biggest thing here is just paying attention to the lines that you're creating with it, and that's where using a 3/8 inch nap roller for applying this on fresh drywall usually does the best, but just rolling it out, making sure you eliminate those lines. Okay, so for your caulking against your tile and the ceiling and the edges here, I really like using Sherwin-Williams 1050 QD. The QD is made for quick dry. And this is a siliconized acrylic. So the siliconized part of it is what really makes it last, and that's why I like to use it. And the acrylic allows me to paint it. So I would definitely recommend using a siliconized acrylic caulk for your ceiling joint and against your tile. So yeah, that quick dry will allow you to get this all caulked and then be able to start getting into the finished coat on the ceiling and the walls. So using that quick dry stuff really helps out when you're in a time crunch like this. Biggest tip here is just getting a drip-free caulking gun that once you let go of that trigger, it actually stops it from oozing out. And then just, keeping the minimal amount that you need on that joint really helps it out and keeps you from smearing it anywhere. All right, so for the ceilings, I really like this Master Hide. It's just a flat white ceiling paint, but I mean, man, it is some of the flattest white that I've ever seen. So if you have any imperfections on the ceiling, you almost can't even see it because it's so flat. But it's just a preference to do flat on the ceiling. I think most people usually have flat white ceiling paint, but the stuff isn't really expensive. This is from Sherwin-Williams. And ever since I've been using it, I just use it on all my ceilings. Okay, so same process as doing the primer. You just want to definitely paint that caulking that you used around the top of the surround. That'll help match up the caulking white color with the ceiling white color. So take your time at this. This does take a little bit of time to do, but that caulking usually dries in about an hour, and you can go ahead and put this coat on there. So yeah, I always like to cut everything in first and then roll the ceiling. Typically you need 2 coats of paint for the ceiling. So this will dry in about 20 minutes, and then you can put the second coat on and then move on to the walls. So yeah, I mean, and this is where, you know, putting that vent fan on during this process to get this ceiling to dry, typically you do need 2 coats for everything. Anything, I mean, honestly, I have never, I don't know, maybe there's a painter in this chat, but I have never seen a paint that you can just do 1 coat on and be totally fine. You know, it just doesn't matter what it is. You always need 2 coats. So even on this flat white ceiling paint, you know, you really need 2 coats. So having a fan on during this process makes a big difference. But using that quick dry caulking is what allows you to get a lot of this done. Now, when I was painting this ceiling, I probably only gave that caulking about 20 minutes to dry, and it wasn't completely dry, but it was at least hard enough that I was able to paint over it. But the QD, or the 1050 QD, I've never had it crack or to have any problems shrinking when it dries either. So, you know, take that for what it is. But I mean, I'm sure if you called Sherwin-Williams, they would want you to have that caulking completely dry before you painted it. But if you want to paint that caulking because it'll make the ceiling look blend right into it, and it'll take away, you know, any bad look from the caulking. You know, even if you had say if you miscut your tile a little bit and you had a 1/4 inch gap and you're trying to fill that with that, you know, when you use that flat ceiling paint, it's really hard to see any imperfections. So you definitely want to paint the actual caulking that you caulk there as well. But yeah, I mean, so then I always just kind of highlight what the process of that day is below here, because, you know, I feel like if you watch this video once, you're not going to really have the time or want to look at it later. I prefer, in a lot of ways, you watch this like the night before, and then when you're doing the project, you can just kind of scroll through, and I kind of highlight the main parts of it. Now, obviously, painting and all this stuff, you're probably not going to have to reference, but when it comes to like the epoxy grout, you might want to just browse through that real quick of the highlights of the important parts of the process. So, but yeah, then I have the, you know, some of the links to the Drywall Primer. I mean, this is really, you can use any type of primer, but I just, what I'm trying to highlight here is that you don't go buying the kills. You don't need to buy a 50-gallon or a $50 gallon of primer. It's just drywall. It's brand new drywall. So you don't really need anything to block any type of stains because of it being new. But I do reference, you know, just kind of the products that I'm using here. The Purdy brush that I use, this is just a standard 2.5 inch brush. A lot of guys telling me today they like using 3 inches, and that's much faster. Okay, that's great. But I just find the angled brushes to be easier to maneuver. I suggest doing the 3/8 inch nap roller so that you can eliminate the amount of lines that you're putting on the wall when you're painting. And then I definitely have the siliconized acrylic latex link here. So this will show you the specific product that I use for that. It really is good stuff. So it's a pretty thick consistency. So it's really nice caulking that corner and the ceiling corner as well. You know, if you bought any of that like Alex latex stuff from your box stores, that stuff is so crappy and thin. It's like fluid almost. It's tough to like make a nice joint. This stuff is fairly thick. It really makes a nice joint. So I think you'll like that. One thing I did want to show to you is which these caulking guns, these drip-free ones, I didn't even know how much almost science is put into some of this. So this company here, I've been really happy with, Newborn. So they have like all these different types of so like the drip-free caulking guns. I just like the standard one. Actually, I don't even know what the 980 is. But you can go on this site and get lost. I mean, it's like there's so much information on here. So that's a 982. There's a Where's the 950? Huh. Maybe the 980 is the new 950. I think I have the link down below for it. Anyways, I had no idea there was so many different things going on with caulking guns. I did want to buy one of these pocket, what do you want to call it? Little caulking tools, essentially. You see all those people using those popsicle sticks. I want to get one of these to try these out. They seems like it's a nice little convenient way to be able to create your joints. So, but you go on this site, it's absolutely amazing. I mean, they really go into depth on all the different types of caulking guns. I had no idea, but having a good drip-free caulking gun will really make your life a lot easier when you're using this stuff. Maybe not so much the latex, like that's not that big of a deal, but the when you get into the siliconing, you really want that gun to stop pouring out that silicone. And then I go over the, just recommending this paint. Now, I don't even know, with all the shortages and stuff, whether you can even get this stuff right now. I have no idea. But, a flat ceiling paint is totally fine because you're going to have, that good vent fan that I always recommend putting in there. That's going to get that humidity out of that bathroom. And then I always cut everything in first. I'm sure there's a lot of great advice out there on, people that do that on a normal basis. Like, I'm primarily just painting bathrooms. I've painted a lot of homes, but I'm by no means would I consider myself a professional painter. I just these are the techniques that I just find to be the easiest. So cutting in first and then rolling, it seems to be the best way to go. And I just have a bunch of links and stuff down there below. So Marco, thanks so much. I just saw you purchase the course. Thank you, man. I really appreciate it. And then Nick, what were you saying? Do you have any? So you have 5/8 drywall? Are you just doing he's asking whether, because he ended up getting 5/8 drywall instead of 1/2 inch. Do I see any problems with using the Curdy system with that? I mean, if you're using the 1/2 inch Curdy board, yeah, that's going to be a problem because you're going to be 1/2 inch off with the 5/8 drywall on the walls. They do make 5/8 Curdy board, but I think there's a huge shortage on all that. If you're using 5/8 all the way around the room and then you're using the Schluter membrane over top of that, no, it doesn't make a difference whether it's 5/8 or 1/2 inch drywall. If anything, it's just going to be a flatter surface because that's one thing. A lot of guys do 5/8 drywall for ceilings, especially on 24-inch on center trusses or ceiling joists, because the 5/8 drywall is can endure and be more flat, so it doesn't have the ability to really be as flexible as the 1/2 inch. So there shouldn't be any issues with it. I mean, it's just if you're going to use a 1/2 inch backer board for your shower, then that's going to be a problem. That 1/8 inch is not going to do well for you. You're going to probably want to shim out those studs at an 1/8 inch so that you can line up your board even with your outside wall. Okay, so we'll get into the second part, which is this shower valve trim. This is a fairly straightforward process. This is the Delta tub and shower faucet that I put on there. So this is really just specifically to this particular bathroom and this particular faucet. When it comes to Delta, most of all the trims are kind of the same strategy. The cartridges that are, the pressure balance ones are all pretty much the same. But it's very similar to mowing, very similar to what Kohler would be, but you're going to have a different process with turning down the water temperature. So let's get into this here. Okay, so we're going to put our trim on here. You got to turn off the water first so that you can remove this test plug. And so that should be, you want to take this little thing out of here. This is a little filter here. Okay, so just make sure you indicate the hot on the left side, and it actually just doesn't have a cold side, it just says hot. So you want to make sure that the hot is on the hot side, and then this just kind of goes right into this same groove here, and then you reuse the locking nut for it. It just needs to be hand tight, and we can turn back on the water. We have a little gasket. This slides over top onto the body of the, and then you just take your chrome escutcheon plate over top of it. And then this is your escutcheon plate. As you can see, it has like a foam seal around it. So this goes over top of that. I highly suggest just using a hand driver for this. You don't want to overpower the screw with a drill. So there's some grooves here, and then if you turn this, you pull out and turn to the left, the hotter the temperature will get, and when you turn it clockwise, the colder it will get. So you want to test the temperature of this. So let's take off our shark bite fitting here. Okay, so we'll take some sanding cloth and we'll sand up this extension pipe before we cut it, just so we can determine how far we have to cut the pipe. Okay, so this is the adapter for the tub spout, and there's two ways you can go about doing this, or actually three really. So one, you can sweat this on with with solder, or you can simply use this setting nut and tighten to the copper. And then the third way is if you wanted to put a male adapter to thread onto this copper. So there's three different ways you can go about doing this. We're just going to use the simplest route, is to use the set screw on the copper. Now, you do want to deburr this. We're going to deburr this before we even slide it on there. There's a deburring tool inside of here. So I'm going to chamfer this. Make sure we don't have any copper that's going to hurt the gasket. Okay, so this needs to be up to a quarter inch away from the wall. That's how far you want to set it. Cut this copper flush. So let's just put a mark there. I'll just cut it. Deburr that with our shark bite tool here. There are better deburring tools than that, but I have that because of the shark bites, so it works. And you can get a better sanding system too that you can put on your drill. But so we'll slide this on. And then use a 3mm Allen key to tighten this onto the copper. Here we go. This thread on our tub spout. And that one is all plastic, by the way. That's okay. So we'll go ahead and turn this on.
Nice looking faucet, but it is only 100.
The hottest setting, and we'll just use a little thermometer to test our water and see where we're at. Okay, so we're about 104. That's not very hot. Typically, you want to be under 120, like around 120 degrees. So we'll turn it to the left a little bit more, and then turn your valve. Okay, so that's a little warm. So 122 degrees is a little warm, so we'll turn it turn it down, and then turn it clockwise a couple of tabs, and then make sure that this thing is turned on all the way. All right, we'll go with that. That's about 120 degrees. Feel it for temperature too. It's not scalding. Okay, so this has a little set screw in here. So I'm gonna put this okay, so we'll take out our test plug here. So for this, counterclockwise, put about 4 to 5 revolutions of Teflon tape.
You know, I got called out on that today because I put a little social media clip on it. That actually is clockwise. It's just the way I'm looking at it and the way but the biggest concept there is making sure that you have the Teflon tape going in the same direction. So when you tighten it into the port, it's not loosening that thread. So, you know, clockwise with your Teflon tape and 4 to 5 revolutions.
Use some of the pipe thread sealant. And just put a little bit of this on that port as well. All right. Okay, so usually by hand tight, you get to about 1, 2 o'clock. So right about there. And what I do is just take a screwdriver, put it in the end, and then pull it down to the rest of the way. So usually hand tight, you get about 2 o'clock, and you have to pull down the rest. So then okay, then we'll run some water through this first. Put some Teflon tape here. Now this side is going to be clockwise, 3 to 4 revolutions. Just going to put a little bit of this.
Now, this is one area that
sealant.
is debatable. You probably really don't need sealant
One
on it
important
at
thing
all.
on these shower
I
heads,
would
you
just
want to
stick
make
with
sure you
the
have that
Teflon
rubber
tape now.
gasket in there.
But it doesn't really
Make that
hurt
sure
anything,
that's
I guess.
already in there.
I mean, honestly, with that rubber gasket in it, you really don't even need anything, but it's just kind of extra insurance. And use a rag or something. Again, I'm in a rush. I should have used a better wrench than that. You don't want to scratch up your new faucet. Not that I did there, but it's very easy to scratch with channel locks like that. So use a little bit more precaution with that. Use a rag or use the handles of it. I saw somebody use the handles of the channel locks before. It seemed like that worked out pretty well. So test it, and there you go. So that's the shower faucet here, and then I think this is really helpful for you because then you don't want to watch that whole thing again if you're in the middle of the project. I just kind of highlight all of the ways, you know, of what you want to pay attention to, make sure you're lining things up, you know, and basically the steps all the way through. So this is basically just an image, quick reference to everything, and should be able to help you out real quickly to be able to get that accomplished. So yeah, I really kind of highlighted that all today because I really wanted to just make it a real quick reference on what to do. And then I got you know, the links for everything. That auto cut tool, I really love it. I use that thing for everything. It's really nice in tight spaces, so you know, you can check out that. And Allen wrench keys, you know, I got all this stuff there. And you can always leave a comment down there below. All right, so then get into painting. After that shower faucet trim, we just get straight into painting because you normally want 2 coats of paint on this as well. Again, there's no way out of that. I think 2 coats no matter what. Now, I do always have a fan running in the bathroom during the time of painting so that it can dry quickly. I get that 2nd coat on there.
Okay, so I always like to use these angled brushes and really just cutting in. I really find that the longer the strokes that you can make, free-handing it, the better lines you're going to get off the ceiling. Taping and all that stuff just ends up creating a mess, especially if you're painting everything the same day like we're doing here. So my biggest tip for painting against the ceiling is just try to use
long, nice strokes. And just try to be continuous with your motions. Because the longer and straighter you are, the better line you'll have it towards the ceiling.
So yeah, again, I always brush everything in first and then roll it. I think it makes a lot of sense. It gets rid of those lines when you roll everything over it. But yeah, this just takes practice getting good at cutting in. But yeah, doing any taping, any of that stuff, definitely not going to work with just having that paint. You know, I just basically painted that ceiling, so there's no way you would be able to
and really, like,
tape it.
any taping, anything like that, it's not going to really help you, especially if you're trying to do this all in the same day. If you tried to tape that ceiling right now, it's just going to pull that paint right off. And then if there's any real humidity, you can pretty much count on that coming off. So cutting in by hand is really the best way. And then just using continuous strokes and motions. And we'll just paint right along that caulk joint on the tile here.
Okay, so on these edges of this tile, I'm actually coating the caulking that I had on there as well. So that is completely covered with paint on the latex caulking. You don't want to leave any latex caulking exposed because that ends up turning to be dingy and dirty looking. So always paint that even when you're doing your base trim. And then I just use a 3/8 inch nap roller again for these flat walls. So again, just making sure that you don't keep any lines. I'm sure many of you have painted before, but hopefully some of these tips have helped you out and made it a little bit quicker and easier for you. Okay, so that's it. So then you're gonna just, you know, basically repeat the same process for the second coat prior to doing the floor tile. And then down here, I just have the references. One of my favorite paints that I use is Sherwin-Williams. I don't know, I'm a big Sherwin-Williams fan. I know everyone has their own preference on what they do with paint. But over the years, I've found this stuff to be some of the best stuff. You know, maybe I'm just biased because that's where I buy most of my paint. But it definitely coats fairly well. So I've been real happy with it. It doesn't have a real strong odor. And then I got basically the links for everything else incorporated in here. So very quick, easy. Painting part is not really isn't too much that you really have to explain there, but I just giving you a couple tips there. And then after the painting, you know, typically I end up painting that first coat, and then I do the caulking around the tub and everything, and then I probably do the second coat of paint after that, and then I finish off with my grouting on my floor. So let's go over 5 minutes over this caulking, because this is a big step. This is a step that, you know, you can really kind of make all of that tile work look terrible if you screw up the caulking. So this is an important part. This is somewhat of a stressful part, but I think some of the tips I have in here will make it a lot less stressful for you and easier. And yeah, so let's just get right into that as well.
So caulking the tub, since we did white grout, I didn't go ahead and spend the money for the matching caulk because it is white, and I'm going to be doing white against the tub. So I just use a standard white silicone made for kitchen and bath. So this is just 100% silicone white.
Now, that's just because this is white. Okay. Now I wouldn't really use this, you know, if I had any type of colored grout or other colored grout, I should say. I like this stuff. This stuff is just, you know, you could get it at everywhere. You know, all the box stores mostly have it. It's pretty fluid. It's pretty easy to work with, but you know, if you wanted to get the matching caulk that matches the grout you got, well, I mean, you definitely want to do that if you have like a gray grout or whatever it is. You definitely want to get the matching, but get the 100% silicone. I think that's the best way to go. It's going to last a lot longer. Most of my experience with the acrylics, they last half the amount of time, and some of them are pretty gritty. Some of them they're not exactly fluid, so they seem to, you know, kind of gather a lot of soap scum on them. So anyways, with the white, I just went with this. This is half the cost of, you know, what the matching caulking would have been for the actual grout.
And my best advice is just to not cut the tip too far, just cut it down to about 3/16 of an opening. But pay attention to how big of a gap that you need to actually fill and kind of go off of that. So we'll just basically try to be as continuous as possible with the caulking gun. Just trying to get the straightest bead that you can.
That's where that drip-free caulking gun makes a difference on stuff like this.
Okay, then just take some clear Windex.
That's the biggest tip
and
right
spray
there.
that joint all the way down.
And I used a clear.
And what this will do is eliminate that from smearing onto the actual tile. So then you can just finger it and remove the excess. And you can remove the excess without actually smearing it on the tile. The Windex keeps that from smearing on it.
Most troublesome part of all of this is always the grout lines. That's where it takes a little bit of delicacy with your finger on there. But again, that Windex, world of difference. Definitely recommend getting the clear stuff though. You don't want to get the stuff with the blue dye in it. I've had some issues before where you know, the blue dye actually kind of stained some of the. Actually, I got it stained on the tub actually once it dried. So now from then on, I always have white vinegar Windex anyways because it's a good cleaner for the epoxy grout and everything else. So I just always stick with the clear. But that really makes a world of difference. It's just spraying down both sides of that tile in the joint.
Okay, so when you go caulking the tub, fill up the tub first. Now this is an American cast tub, so there's not going to be any real flexibility to it. But if you have an acrylic tub, it's really important to fill the tub first because the weight of that water will make the tub flex a little bit and expand that grout joint around the edge. You're not going to be able to really notice it by the eye, but if you go to silicone it without filling the tub, that weight of the water will make that stretch that silicone and it won't last as long. So if you want a long lasting caulk joint, fill the tub first and then caulk. And so just try to be as consistent with your joint as possible and make sure that everything's dry. You want to make sure there's no standing water. If you have any water here, it's just going to ruin your joint. Okay, then take a little bit of clear Windex and spray that joint.
So it's the same process there.
Will eliminate. You have to. It will eliminate the smears on the tub and the tile.
And I'm not against caulking tools at all. I actually have a link below for some of the caulking tools. I just haven't found one for stuff like this where, I don't know. I guess my fingers are pretty big, so they actually do a pretty good job of tooling it, I guess. And I've been just doing it this way for a very long time, so I feel like I get success out of it. But I think there's a lot of value in some of the caulking tools as well. So I wouldn't discount them. I definitely check into them, try them out for sure.
Okay, so then finishing off the other two sides are pretty much the same concept. Biggest thing is just trying to maintain an even caulking joint all the way along. That's it. That's the reason that you don't want to be cutting too much of the tip of the caulking gun out. You don't want to be applying too much and then having a hard time you know, getting things smeared on it. The grout joints are always the toughest part. I honestly use my finger for most applications. I still find that to be the easiest thing to use, but there are a lot of caulking tools out there that you know definitely could try out, and it could bring some real success to you on a nice even grout joint. But this silicone is pretty easy to work with. Yeah, and I would say that not all silicones, you know, work the same, or they're not as easy to work with. There are some out there that can be very difficult. So,
But yeah, Brendan, painting pulls do I use painting pulls? Like the extension pulls? Absolutely. I just don't really use them in bathrooms because it's such a small confined space. But when I'm renovating full houses, when I'm doing my flip homes, you bet I am. That really makes it a lot easier to stand back, and not only that, but you'd be able to, when you get a 5-gallon bucket of paint, you can put one of those paint grates in there and then roll all day long. So I absolutely use them for that. I think they definitely make it a lot easier. I just, with a small bathroom like this, it's a little bit more troublesome. Lexus, yes, 4,000 subs to 7,000. I really am disbelief. I'm absolutely I'm stunned by the growth as well, and I'm really, really happy about it. So thank you so much. I was hoping that the algorithm somehow would. I think it had to do with that I finally got 1 million views on my channel, and it kind of pushed things out. But I'm also riding the tails of Winnie Designs out there too. So I'm putting out all these short videos, and I think they're coming up right behind him, who he's like way ahead of me on the amount of views and stuff. So I think my videos might be trailing his in a lot of cases. But yeah, this is all exciting. Very, very exciting to see things grow here. So thanks so much for all the new subscribers. Again, like this video if you can. That really helps the algorithm on that. But below here, I just kind of go through the same thing as I've been doing all my other parts of my course, just kind of highlighting some things, give you the link to the actual caulking I just used there. But this is Latacrete Latasil. This is the 100% silicone that I could have gotten to match the grout that I got. So this is what I would use, but you could see it's $30. It's good stuff, don't get me wrong, but I think for white, it doesn't really make any difference as far as the look goes. And I think this stuff lasts pretty long as well too. So, but yeah, always check, whatever type of grout you're using, see what they have available. But I still am a big believer in just the 100% silicone. And then I got the link again for this Caulking Gun that I like. Let me see if they do have the 2.9. Oh, well, they have it selling here on Amazon. It's only $17. I'm telling you, this is really well worth it. I love that Caulking Gun. Really does stop the caulking once you let go of that trigger. Big difference. Get some Windex. I think any job, any bathroom remodel, you need some of this stuff with vinegar on it. It's the most delicate on all your grouts and everything. And when you're using epoxy or even any of these pre-mix grouts, Windex with vinegar is a great way to be able to clean up any of the haze on things. And I just kind of referenced, fill that tub. That's an important concept. That's it's just going to make things last longer. Because unfortunately, every bathroom that you put caulking in, that's the maintenance issue. That's the thing that's going to have to be, replaced in the next 3-4 years. Most of the time, it is about between 3 and 5 years is typically the time frame that your caulking might need to be replaced. Not necessarily in the corners where for the tile, but typically where the tub is. It usually is about between 3 and 5 years where that needs to be replaced. And unfortunately, I don't think there's really any way of getting around it. Let me know what other contractors' experience are, but that's usually where I hear, hey, I have a little bit of separation here, or it's, well, hopefully it's not turning yellow. That's where getting 100% silicone makes a big difference. But yeah, so anyways. Tim Carr, thank you for buying my course. I just saw you put that, you just bought it. I really appreciate it. Yeah, the drip-free caulking gun. Here, let me just show you here again. Now that you're in my course, you can just go down to that 6th day down to Caulking and Tub. But this is the caulking gun that I recommend. I have the Amazon link there, but you can also go to that Newborn site. I don't know if you can order it directly from them or not, but this is the one. I mean, this might be their cheapest model of it. I'm not really sure. Honestly, you can get lost on that site with all the different type of caulking guns, but I've been really happy with that one. So yeah, definitely check that out. And then, yeah, the specific model that I did was just the 950 GTS. So anyways, but yeah, just references over there. Again, if you had a comment, if you had any questions, I'm always more than happy to help you out. This is where I'm going to spend my time eventually. I have a feeling as things continue to grow, the less that I'm going to be in the comments. And honestly, some of the comments from all the social media stuff's driving me nuts. I almost, it's almost seems like a complete waste of my time. So I'm learning, you know, it's just going to take time to tune it all out. But this is where I will be spending, you know, my real efforts is answering any of the members that are in this, you know, project here. And then the last thing of the day, and this is just a quick video on, because this is really easy grout. And this might end up being the grout that I just recommend for everything all the time. I just don't, when it comes to the white grout, I still want to go with that standard epoxy grout. I still think it's the best grout out there for, you know, as far as durability and stain resistance. But the other product that Laticrete came out with, this Spectrolock one, I've been using it for over a year now. I know a lot of the great towelers out there, you know, Sal de Blasi, the towel coach. I know all those guys are using a lot of this stuff. They seem to be pretty pleased with it. You know, I just haven't used it with white yet, but I definitely love it. It definitely is really easy to use, really user friendly. And the great thing about it is that you can, you know, you can just close that lid on that bucket. And if you had to touch something up the next day, you can do that very easily. Whereas when you're using regular epoxy, once it's mixed, that's it. That's all you get. So that's where this stuff is really tremendous. And I do have recommendations, other recommendations for grout if you don't want to spend $100 on this. But I really, if you're going to do a bathroom remodel, just budget $100 for the grout, or well, actually 200. You're going to need a little bit for the floor, and then you're going to need $100 for the tub surround. So you are spending about $200 just for the grout. On any given bathroom. Yeah, we'll show you the process of this, but this stuff is really easy, and I think very user-friendly for just about anybody.
So what we're going to use is the Spectrolock one for the floor. This is basically the pre-mix version that they have of epoxy. Now this is not epoxy, this is more of a urethane pre-mix type of mixture. They claim it's just as good as epoxy. I haven't, I actually really do love this grout. I use it for many projects, but for the floor, it's absolutely terrific. It can go down to 16th inch grout joints. It never needs sealed. It doesn't crack. And one of the great things is that if I ever had to touch it up later on, I can just open up the bucket and use it. Whereas regular epoxy, once that's mixed and it's done, you have to mix a whole new batch. So I really do love the ability to touch things up, especially on a floor. You're always bringing things in and out, and you might you know, ruin a section of grout, or you miss something, or there's a little too much water in the grout joint, and then tomorrow you notice that it needs to be filled in, and you can do that with this. So this is really simple to use. It just right out of the canister, you don't even have to mix it or anything. It's already ready to go. So just like any grouting procedure, just use a damp sponge. Wipe down the surface of the tile, and then use a Grout Float and just embed it into the grout joints. Cleanup time is usually about 5 minutes after you spread it, so don't get too far ahead of yourself. You know, I mean, on a floor like this, you could probably do the whole thing and not be a problem, but just know that, you know, typically you want to be removing this 5 minutes after you apply it.
It is a very nice smooth consistency.
It's very much like the epoxy, where it's a little thick, but it's pretty easy to work with. And the color matching consistency is really great too, from bucket to bucket.
But yeah, typically you can go ahead and just like grout a whole floor like this all at once and then wipe it off. But you don't want to get too ahead of yourself, you know. 10 minutes max. 10 minutes max before you start cleaning that up. So
okay, so washing is important not to have too much water on your sponge. So this Spectrolock requires you not to have very much on it. So you just want to use a very lightly damp sponge and just hold the joint and wipe it off. But with a nice smooth tile like this, it's actually really, really simple.
Okay, so if your bathroom floor is a little bit bigger than this, I would recommend just doing half of it first, wipe it off, and then do the second half. But in this instance, you know, basically 5 to 8 minutes, somewhere in between there, is about all it took to pack all of those joints. And then most important thing here is to have a decent sponge tooling the joints, making sure you don't have too much water on that sponge, because too much water will definitely compromise the grout joint. You know, I guess I should mention too, what I'm doing there is like I'm grabbing a little bit more of that grout, and I'm kind of making sure that those grout joints are nice, filled in nicely. So a lot of times when you see me doing that, it's just because it was a little bit low, and I just wanted to, you know, you can pretty much just fill it in and just immediately wipe it off. So I'm kind of just touching things up as I go. This is definitely becoming one of my favorite grouts. Really easy to use, and it's best to try to do this at the end of the day for the floor, so everything completely cures and you'll be ready for tomorrow. Okay, so like I said, that was at the end of the day, so I'm just leaving right after. This is probably like 25 after 3, and my wife had to get out of there. But you could, after about an hour later, use some Windex with the vinegar and use a scrubby pad and make sure that any of the haze, you know, it doesn't really leave much haze. That's one other great thing about this premix. I'm really impressed with it because it doesn't really have much of a haze left over. A lot of other premixes that you use, it can be problematic. I mean, quartz lock, Bostik, you know, I'm not a big fan of the CQ, Mapei CQ. It's easy to clean and do everything, but I don't like the grittiness of the CQ. I think it's too much sand mixture in there. Maybe they've changed their formula. It's been you know, almost a year since I've used it, and I used to use it. I mean, not a lot. I've probably done in maybe 6 bathrooms with it. And I just wasn't overly impressed with the Mapei CQ. I know you're able to get that at Lowe's right now, and but I have not really been all that impressed with it. But this seems to be some of the best premixes I've used yet. And Laticrete used to have a previous form of this that was great too, but it did have some issues. So I guess they took it off the market, and then they came out with this stuff, and you know, it's pretty good. So take that for what it is. But here I just kind of reference again, and this is where you can buy it. So this will show you the price of it. It's not cheap, $100 for a bucket of that. You know, depending on what size towel you use around the tub surround, if you did 12 by 24s all the way around, you probably only need this, and you can do everything. Now I would have used this for the tub surround if it was gray, if it was beige. I'm just waiting a little bit of time before I use the bright white with it. Just because in my experience, you know, there was a period of time for like literally 8 years in a row, I did nothing but use the same type of grout. And that was before I was filming. So once I started filming, I started trying out a lot more things. And, you know, there just has been a lot more products that have come out in the market in the last 5 or 6 years. But I used to use Bostik quartz lock, and that's all I used. And what I ended up finding out is when I would, clients would, you know, ask me to do a maintenance thing, like maybe, you know, they had to recalc this, or they would call me back for whatever issue they might have once, maybe another, a lot of times I'd actually do another bathroom in their home. They would call me back for the other bathroom, and then I would go up and see what my work looked like that I did 3 or 4 years ago. And anytime that it was white grout, it just looked absolutely terrible when I used the Bostik quartz lock. I think it was because of the grittiness of the quartz lock allowed the soap scum and everything else to kind of just stick to the grout joints, and then it was difficult for them to clean. And in my own my previous home, I used it on a laundry floor. I had a laundry room, and I used quartz lock for the laundry floor. And, you know, I have dogs, and, you know, so it's just kind of a really well-used area. That grout got dirty. It darkened up. I could never get it back to clean. It never got back to the original color. So, you know, they say it was stain resistant, but I didn't, you know, it didn't work out at all. So that's when I started using epoxy, because I wanted to find something that I can get back to what the original color was. And so far, that's what it has been. Epoxy has always been dependable. You can always get it back to what it was for the most part. But this might be the next best thing. This might be the future. This might be the thing that you want to just use on everything. And so far, it seems to be that way. But I'm just not willing to take the chance until I really see some feedback on the bright white and whether anybody's having any issues. So, you know, I guess I'm cautious with that. I mean, you know, but it is an easy product, as you saw, to install. And then I just kind of go over it. The Grout Float that I was using on this, that's weird. No, I guess I don't have the link on that right. Well, anyways, there's a Marshalltown float that I used for it. And here's a big thing that really does make a difference, is using these Ardex sponges. I know these are expensive if you buy them on Amazon. They're expensive even if you buy them at a store that has them. So the tile shop will have these. So if you have one of these places near you, I don't know if anybody is familiar with the tile shop. So this is it's a chain, and it has a, I don't know, where's the actual, that, okay, there's the symbol. I just wanted to give you a reference of what the place looks like. So the tile shop, they sell Ardex products, so they'll have sponges there, but they are expensive. I mean, they're, even at the regular retail, I think they're like $5 a piece. But it makes a huge difference for grouting. It really, really does. I don't know, you know, the square edges of the sponge, and then just the fact that it's a fairly fine sponge. Like the pores in it are fairly fine, so it really does a great job of cleaning things up. That's all I primarily use. And so if you were to do a bathroom, I would recommend buying a half a dozen of these. You know, I know it's like 60 or, well, if you got it from Amazon, it'd be almost $75, but it is worth it, or at least get 2 of them so that you can use one for the floor and one for your epoxy grouting. Let me see if this has the link. Yeah, there we go. This is the Grout Float that I was using. So it's just a Marshalltown. You know, much better than any of the ones that you're getting at the box stores for the most part. And then let me see what else we had. That was it. So that really wraps it up for day 6. And I'm going to work on the day 7, which would be obviously putting in the vanity, the toilet, and finishing off everything. So again, thanks so much for everyone joining me tonight. I'm definitely seeing a larger crowd come on here, which is great. And I'm going to keep doing these live streams. So I'll probably have 2 more live streams on the course. Well, I might actually have 3, because I want to go over like a more detailed, basically dedicated towards, you know, the cost of doing this stuff, of what the materials will cost for this bathroom, and then really kind of give you an evaluation of how much this is actually saving you if you did it yourself, because I think that's an important motivational thing to have, to know how much you're really saving in the whole process. So yeah, thanks Troy for being here. Hopefully things are going well here. I haven't kept up on you today, see what you're up to, but yeah, thanks everyone for being here, and I'll notify you on the next live stream. I might do a Saturday morning. Anybody who's like actually watching this to continue to follow through on here, leave me a comment below after I finish off here. Let me know if Saturday morning, mid-morning works, or if you prefer evenings, because I still have the 7th day to put together, so it probably won't be until, I may probably be prepared maybe Saturday morning, and then I'll have Sunday evening. I can probably finish up the entire course, but then I'll probably end up doing this checklist that I want to put together, and I'll probably might have a live stream on that as well. Anyways, I'm going to be doing a lot of live streams. I think this is a great way to interact with everybody, so I hope you guys are all gaining something out of this as well. So have a good night. Thanks so much.